You know, the problem with Christians, as I've seen it, is that we go to church on Sunday, we get certain information fed to us every week, and we live our life in mediocrity about our belief in Jesus. This information, by learning it in depth, can bring a new passion into your lives as a Christian, and you can share the word in a way that it can change the world. I became incredibly aware that something different and special was happening. And what was happening in those lessons was a description and a discussion of the Word of God in a way that I had never in my life been able to incorporate in my life. Being raised as a Catholic, information about the New Testament and the Old Testament was given to me in bits and pieces. And I'm a holistic thinker. I like, when I'm learning about something, I want to know the whole picture. And what I began to see with Glen's lesson by lesson, is that the Gospels were laid down next to each other in a format that allowed me to truly understand an event in the life of Jesus. And in understanding that, I had new clarity and began to transform my lukewarm understanding and ideals about this. And I began to recognize, and the reason I'm here today, is I began to recognize that this material, when shared with people, would become a motivating factor, a transformational factor in their life, giving them the ability to actually live their lives according to the way that Jesus was explaining to us to live ours. In addition to that, it's interesting. Think about the way the New Testament is written, not being critical or judgmental, but you have to go to each and every one of those separate books to try to figure out all the information according to what was actually happening. The way Glen has put it together, I can view a lesson with all the Gospels laid down next to one another and get the entire picture of how even the writers were seeing it differently, a little bit differently, but it shows also a strengthening of the fact that the storyline is complete, even after all those years. The recognition, the words of Christ himself, all of it comes through, and it becomes a complete picture, so complete that all of us that are dedicated to this project are standing here today discussing with you the opportunity to share this material with you and the other people in your groups that ought to be learning it. I feel like Jesus is at once the most historical and important figure in the history of the world. The information that's in the study course, Getting to Know Jesus, is the most complete and beautiful way to learn about the events in his life. It's unique, it's refreshing, and what I think about is a little bit the way a lot of real leaders and people they have not been properly understood. They've been misunderstood. And so I feel like that this Getting to Know Jesus series clarifies the information in such a way that all of us can understand it and incorporate it in our lives. I've got to come back and ask you a question about that. How could reading about the most important information in the history of our planet not change anyone's life if they take the time to read it and absorb it? It has influenced me. It has positively influenced me. It's created in my life a new foundation upon which to build